Tonight on Chronicle.
It became me and the spoon and me and the needle.
A nationwide epidemic.
It's a miserable, miserable existence to be an addict.
A crisis in our neighborhoods and schools.
If you're lucky enough not to die.
A powerful killer high.
This fentanyl-laced heroin is going to be the death of a lot more people.
Tearing apart families.
It changed who we are.
Just sad that my brother passed away.
Forever.
Through the eyes of addiction.
It completely took over my life.
And that's what it is, they're chasing that high.
Tonight on Chronicle, chasing the high.
Good evening and welcome to Chronicle. I'm Jane Robelo. The regional head of the Drug Enforcement Administration said it best. In his 24 years at the DEA, he never imagined heroin would become a recreational drug in this state. But that's exactly what has happened. In the last 2 years, deadly heroin overdoses in the upstate have more than doubled. Heroin's cheaper and more plentiful than it used to be. And these days, it's being mixed with a powerful opiate that makes it even stronger and more deadly. And it may even surprise you to learn who's using heroin right now. Tim Waller shows us how the rise of this drug has overwhelmed those who are dealing with it firsthand.
Keep your back tight, keep your head up.
For half of her life, Katie Austin of Greenville
Keep your knees wide.
has had the weight of drug addiction on her shoulders.
Drive up.
The way that I was living was not life. I thought that all I wanted to do was get high for the rest of my life.
Austin began using at an early age, eventually turning to heroin in her search for the ultimate high.
It became me and the spoon and me and the needle.
Good. One more, just like that. Come on.
Now, 4 years clean, Austin has not only beat incredible odds.
The stuff that has messed me up the worst, that I almost passed out, almost OD'd on, that's the stuff that we couldn't wait to go get again.
She has narrowly avoided what authorities describe as an epidemic that has reached our state.
I never thought there'd come a time in my career where I'd actually hear heroin be referred to as a recreational drug.
In the last few years, nearly every community in South Carolina has seen a spike in fatal heroin overdoses, up 124% statewide between the years 2013 and 2014. 16 deaths in Greenville County just last year.
It's something that snuck up on us. We had no idea it was coming or that this was going on until some questions started being raised about, hey, have you noticed an increase in your heroin overdoses? And so we got to checking, and sure enough, we had a significant increase in it, and it has steadily been increasing over the last 2 years.
He says the problem these days is that much of the heroin being sold on the street is laced with the powerful painkiller fentanyl. Once exclusively a prescription opioid used to treat severe pain, fentanyl is now being manufactured in clandestine labs and being added to heroin to increase potency and profit. And this is often the result: accidental overdoses from a drug too strong.
There is a great possibility the next time that you inject heroin that you're going to overdose, period.
Dr. Mike Guyton says the fentanyl-heroin mix now flooding the country is a game changer, and a deadly one at that.
What we're worried about is that since it is so strong and potent, that if you're not sure about what amount you're using, you can actually lead to deaths a lot quicker with such a smaller amount than with traditional drugs of abuse.
The number of overdoses and deaths across the upstate from heroin and/or fentanyl keeps rising. There were 33 fentanyl deaths in Greenville County last year, more than doubling the number the year before.
70 northbound, South Carolina 5618.
In Spartanburg County, 18 heroin samples seized last year by deputies in drug stings and sent to a laboratory tested positive for fentanyl.
You know, first of all, don't do heroin or any drugs for that matter, but you know, this fentanyl-laced heroin is going to be the death of a lot more people.
It's rolling this way up the interstate from Atlanta, now a primary hub for heroin distribution by Mexican-based traffickers.
Well, we're 3 hours away from Atlanta. You can be downtown Atlanta right around 3 hours. So, you know, you're really foolish if you don't think it comes here and comes through here, because it does.
Heroin is cheaper and more abundant than before. A single fix can be bought for $25, and not just in back alleyways by hardcore users.
The demographic has completely changed from what it used to be in the past as far as heroin use. Now it's in the there's no particular demographic that's confined to. It's all over. We see it in rich neighborhoods. We see it in middle class, white, black, everywhere. It's because it's what's wanted right now, and it's cheap, and everybody's using it.
Exercise is my new addiction. And so it's an addiction that I can definitely deal with.
Katie Austin is a rare example of someone who's escaped the grip of heroin.
I have this huge wave of gratitude for the life that I get to live today.
And with the number of users increasing each day at a time when heroin has never been more deadly,
Well, I feel spent and just good.
Austin draws strength from the disaster her life could have been.
Good job.
Thanks. My past is my greatest asset. I consider my experience to be what I have to offer to the world, and I wouldn't change it for a thing.
The Greenville County coroner says so many people are overdosing on fentanyl-laced heroin, fentanyl has been added to their toxicology screening. And in an effort to save lives, a push is underway to equip first responders with the drug naloxone, which reverses the effects of a heroin overdose.
Great-looking kid. I mean, the all-American boy.
How one pill changed a family forever.
Just sad that my brother passed away.
And he didn't realize that this dangerous drug is out there.
Coming up next on Chronicle.
You need not become a full-blown addict to have your life destroyed by the drug trade. A single choice can do great harm that no one sees coming. Michael Cogdill now with the story of a family, a funeral, and a legacy.
The Mincy family survived addiction and cancer.
Our household has been an open book.
All right, nice.
But death came knocking on this household.
It changed who we are forever. It changed the dynamics of our family.
Slipped in through a window, most unexpected.
The whole idea of finding out that your son passed away on Facebook was a complete out-of-body experience, completely surreal.
Yes, on Facebook, Lisa and Mark Mincy learned their son Andrew was gone. Among his friends where he lived in South Florida, the shock had traveled fast.
And of course, we had just finished with our Easter dinner and had no idea. So I went on to Facebook, and sure enough, it was posted just all over my Facebook. Rest in peace, Drew.
And yes, the news arrived on Easter Sunday afternoon, only hours after some last words between mother and son.
And Sunday morning at 9:30, he texted me, said, "Happy Easter, Mom." I texted him back and said, "Happy Easter, son. I love you. Have a great day." And he didn't realize that this dangerous drug is out there. That's it. Most people, they don't realize that this drug is out there now. We've never had to deal with anything this powerful.
Because they are certain their karate champ, former Christian school quarterback, had no addiction to anything, especially heroin.
I think he had a weak moment where somebody offered him something that he didn't know what it was, or it was told it was something else.
Anti-heroin. He said, "Mom, I would never do heroin or crack or any of those horrible drugs. They're nasty. They can kill you."
No needle took this life. The Palm Beach County coroner believes Andrew died from a cheap little street pill, heroin, laced with that very strong prescription drug, fentanyl.
They said he definitely just swallowed a pill. And the coroner also told me that she is getting 5 overdoses a day in Palm Beach County. So my son was one of those 5 that day.
And with each passing day, the new heroin epidemic inches deeper and deeper into daily life around here and not just on the streets. In Greenville County, the coroner offers a dire prediction about heroin, the high schools, and a body count he sees coming.
We'll have to have another building, that's for sure. Hospital won't hold the numbers we're going to have.
So much left to give and so much left to say and do.
So many funerals, the Mincys are left with the afterglow of Andrew's service and the short life of their boy.
Gray-looking kid. I mean, the all-American boy, right? You would expected nothing like this conversation as he was growing up.
He even learned from his mom's addiction. After breast cancer, she needed some help to overcome the pain pills.
I was in rehab for 77 days and haven't touched anything since, and that's been 7 years.
I just felt bad for everyone, and I was just sad that my brother passed away.
Those years ago, no one could see what one pill would do to break the heart of Andrew's 13-year-old brother, Aaron.
I don't know the reason now, but there is a reason.
Bad decision?
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. And he held my wife's face in his hands and said, "Mom, you tried. You did everything you could for your son. You tried."
So the Mincy family will try now to turn hurt into a legacy.
Aaron, is that big enough?
That's a pretty one.
As they talk to the spirit of their boy.
I say, damn it, Andrew. I thought that you were listening to me. I know he was listening, but he didn't know what he took.
Telling all who'll listen how death slipped in here.
So I say, Andrew, I'm sorry you've lost your life, but I'm going to remember you with respect, and we are going to help save lives through you.
And here's part of the legacy. The Mincys tell us after Andrew's funeral, 7 families reached out for help for issues related to drugs.
We haven't been a family that tried to hide this.
A prominent Greenville family shares their battle with addiction.
This disease requires miracles.
When Chronicle continues.
An addiction counselor tells us opiates are the leading cause of death from overdose, and those opiates include prescription painkillers and heroin. But when it comes to doing harm to families, alcohol remains the #1 addiction threat. Michael Cogdill now with how the legal and the illegal can lead to the same destination.
Right there in the Renaissance that is downtown Greenville, there lives a family doing some rebuilding of its own.
It was very difficult. It was very hard.
They had 4 sons born into advantage, but Jeff, the second born, got drunk one day in the 5th grade.
You know, I know what it's like to wake up after a blackout drunk and not know what had happened.
At a sleepover, that first shot of booze into a little boy led to marijuana and then alcohol rehab at 17.
Jeff was a very good student early.
Their athletic scholar somehow found a certain light on the dark side.
But just being a stoner sort of took on a deeper meaning. I was drawn to that lifestyle.
But the family lifestyle grew. Dad and Mom built the business, owned airplanes, and within their faith, a pair of heavy hearts.
I felt very alone. I've certainly looked around and said, where's God?
I guess there's been some tough love in there.
The disease of addiction definitely doesn't discriminate.
Today, Jeff is sober, 45, working to help addicts at a treatment center called Favor, Faces and Voices of Recovery, founded in part by his own family.
There's many pathways in recovery, to recovery, that it's not a one-size-fits-all world.
We haven't been a family that tried to hide this.
It's meeting people where they are and encouraging people and saying, you know, I've been there. I've been there.
And you might have been here. Stuart and Martha Spinks own the Spinks Company, more than 80 stores, and they learned the money would buy no sobriety.
We're just a local family, you know, we're human.
The Spinks family story rings so familiar to what countless families in cities around the country are living right now. A few years ago, Stuart Spinks sold most of the business to devote more time to his family, only to see another member of that family suffer the same problems, only worse.
I've always felt loved, but somehow I felt like John and I had been forgotten. But I think God was letting us hit our own bottom, letting us find our way.
John Spinks, 41 years old. At the time of the story's telling, he had found his way to rehab again. Mom and Dad walking that fine line between loving a son and enabling him to get worse.
Oh, he says, "Oh, Dad, you've helped me. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now." No, that was an enabling moment for me.
The likes of crack and methamphetamine have landed John Spinks in at least 14 treatment centers from here to California and back.
And when I changed my cell phone number and wouldn't give it to him, I think that was a pretty strong signal for John.
Now for Mom, no more buying him a moped, so her grown son with no driver's license could buzz the family legacy around town. From the treatment center, John Spinks talked with me about his own legacy.
From a very young age, I remember feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, somehow just not quite good enough.
His family needed help to learn we can't fix that or love the addiction away.
Let John stay in jail this last time. Martha wasn't getting him out.
And in their own recovery, the family had to learn a kind of love their son himself describes.
Mom, Dad, and my brothers have had to, and I don't blame them at all, have had to take a step back and say, look, until he's ready to do something about his problem, I'm not willing to be involved with him at all.
But things are better for now. Like the city around them, the Spinks family renaissance builds on the past day by day and rises on a power that is not their own.
I'm not up to miracles, and many times this disease requires miracles.
Martha Spinks tells us through those hard times with addiction, she saw her family pull closer together.
I think people seem like they're blind because it's too painful to look at.
The wake-up call to a community in need.
You know, it's very surreal and sobering watching a couple of body bags leave your house.
Coming up next on Chronicle.
Drug prevention specialists say every year in the United States, more people die from addiction than from breast cancer, and that we won't see the same type of research to help battle addiction until people change their attitudes. Myra Ruiz shows us how some are moving past the stigma of this disease.
Every May, Steve Grant observes the birthday of his son Christopher by his gravesite.
It's still very surreal. It's very hard to believe.
Christopher died at the age of 21.
Christopher died technically from an overdose of cocaine and methadone, taking a lot of cocaine, then having methadone. And I clearly remember that day when I found him dead in our house.
Grant's other son, Kelly, would have celebrated his 30th birthday this May, but he died in 2010.
Kelly was very secretive about his heroin use. There were just a handful of people that knew about it. He was actually very ashamed, I believe. The coroner said he had 2 needle marks on his body when he died. It's very surreal and sobering watching a couple of body bags leave your house. And it's a feeling, as I tell people when I speak, you don't want to go through that experience.
The Greenville Family Partnership doesn't want that for anyone else either.
It's up to a parent to be more vigilant, ask more questions, and there's so much more that could be done at a younger age.
Executive Director Carol Reeves says some children are predisposed to developing drug addictions, like those with attention deficit disorders and asthma.
Those are all signals that there's a risk at a later time that they may try to self-medicate.
Children with depression, eating, and behavioral disorders are also prone to addiction.
Those are all signals that brain is wired differently. Those are all signals that you have to be ever more vigilant of your child.
Greenville Family Partnership can intervene by setting families up with programs that boost self-esteem and build interests in other areas.
Parents have to realize it is a slow path to addiction, and it is a medical problem, and it is a disease if it's full-blown addiction.
She would know. Her son Sean died at the age of 37.
He had every consequence from drugs possible. I've accepted that drugs took his life.
Faces and Voices of Recovery, known as FAVOR, offers help with recovery.
You'll hear a lot of people talk about somebody needs to hit bottom and then want to get help in order to get better. We don't believe that's the way to do this. The first thing is we can get away from talking about a one-size-fits-all recovery process. We can just be real honest and say there's multiple pathways to recovery. The second thing is we can get real assertive and aggressive with a customer service ethic
Rich Jones says his addiction to alcohol and drugs broke up his family. He went through recovery, then rebuilt his family with his wife. He's a certified interventionist with Favor, helping others struggling with addiction.
It's not that more kids are doing drugs. The problem is the type of drugs that they're doing.
Rich Jones says opioid drug deaths are going up in South Carolina, but it's even worse in surrounding states.
If you looked at it like a war map, you would say we're surrounded. They're getting ready to invade us. So we've got to get ahead of this curve.
Rich Jones of Favor says research shows there is a 70% success rate of battling addiction when a person keeps trying. But the problem is 90% of those in rehab give up. It's very clear from our investigation that no one is immune from this crisis. Not you, your friends, your kids. Drug addiction knows no boundaries. It seeks out every corner of society. We must get involved in the conversation in our communities, educate our children, and erase the stigma and the shame of drug addiction. If you or your loved ones are facing this daily battle, there are people in this community ready to help. You don't have to hit bottom before you get the assistance you need. Thank you for joining us for Chronicle, Chasing the High. I'm Jane Robileau. Good night.